The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
The mind of Pat Popolizio is a wondrous thing. And for you Pac wrestling fans, you'll get to go inside the mind of the Skip each and every episode here on the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast. Now, here's your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt.
A whirlwind season has come to an end, and we're back with a brand new episode of the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast to put a bow on one of the most exciting seasons in NC State wrestling history. I'm your host, NC State Director of Athletics Digital Communications, Brian Reinhardt, and joining me in studio is NC State Wrestling Head Coach Pat Popolizio.
Good afternoon, Brian.
Pat, we gave you the week off from the last episode, which featured the 197-pound, 218 NCAA champion Michael Macchiavello. And if you haven't listened to that interview, please go back into the archives, as Mock really broke down his matches in depth and shared some great insights to his title run. But Pat, with 9 guys in action at the NCAAs, there were an awful lot of matches. I hope your voice recovered and you're just ready to knock out this podcast.
Yeah, I figured you gave me the week off to get my voice back, because that's about as long as it took.
I won't say that our ratings went up with you off last week. They might have gone down. I don't know. I just didn't even check yet, so we'll have to see.
Well, you got the mayor. You had the mayor on there, so they probably went up.
We're going to start with some breaking news, and as of this recording, it has not been announced yet, but I already told you, so it's not a surprise. But Pat, congratulations on being named the 2018 ACC Coach of the Year. There were so many program firsts set this season, we can rattle off a whole list of stats and tell our listeners just how successful a season it was. But first and foremost, congratulations on winning your first ACC Coach of the Year honors.
Wow. Well, that's a great honor, because obviously our conference has some of the best coaches in the country, so that means a lot, obviously coming from them, and just appreciate that. And honestly, those kind of awards are more of a reflection of the program. Sometimes as a head coach, you get the recognition of that, but at the end of the day, this is a body of work of our student athletes, administration, the coaches that are associated with this program, our whole sports staff, and everybody puts their time and energy into building a program. And so, I take this as a token of appreciation to everybody's hard work that's behind the scenes day in and day out, and working relentlessly to continue to build things here.
And Wolfpack listeners, thank you for listening to the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast each and every episode. Just because the season came to an end does not mean this podcast will. We'll continue to pump out new and exciting episodes throughout the off season. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to all your favorite podcasts. And if you like what we're doing here, head over to iTunes, leave us a rating and review. Our numbers have really taken off thanks to all of our many Wolfpack Wrestling fans' efforts. And where else can you get full in-depth interviews with a 2018 national champion, the 2018 ACC Coach of the Year? I'll tell you, only here at the Pac Mentality Pop-Ins podcast we're the only school nationally to host our own wrestling podcast ourselves. And that little thing right there, I think I'm going to use that to ask for my raise once the fiscal year is up. But knock on wood.
Knocking on the door. I think you should.
I tell you, I've given that shout out a few times, so I hope some people are listening. But now,
tell me who to send it to. I'll email them.
But now back to this episode. And before we get into our NCAA championships recap, we have some other news and notes to share with our fans. We already mentioned Pat was named the 2018 ACC Coach of the Year, and also from the ACC, and this should not be a surprise to anybody. After he won a national title, Michael Macchiavello was named the ACC Wrestler of the Year, and now NC State has won that award 4 times in the past 5 seasons, and we're going to go back and break down his run to the NCAA title. But Pat, can you just talk about Mock's development since he came into the program and how gratifying it was to see him win a national championship as a senior?
Yeah, that's a great award. Obviously, capping off a phenomenal tournament that he had, and senior season that he put together. You go back and you look at day one when we had the opportunity to recruit him out of high school. It's just been an unbelievable ride on both sides. Watching the development of him, not only as a wrestler but as a person. and the things that he's done for this program. You know, his leadership alone, we sit here and we always judge guys on what they're able to accomplish on the mat. But I think a lot of times people don't get to see the leadership behind the scenes day in and day out in our program. And that's something that has been extremely valuable to this program. It's instilled a ton of confidence with the guys, and it's proven. You know, what he's about, I think, defines a lot, you know, when we were building this program up, what we needed. And guys like him that maybe weren't the highest level guys coming out of high school, because he wasn't, coming in here, doing everything right in his power, you know, as far as lifestyle goes, work ethic, and studying the sport, because he was behind the eight ball a little bit starting so late in his career, but he put all the energy he had into winning a national title, focused on school, wrestling, and really sacrificed a lot. And I think that's not just him. A lot of guys in this room have sacrificed a ton in their personal life to move forward, to bring home individual goals and obviously team hardware this year. And Machiavello defines that to a T, proving that you can win a national title at this level if you do everything in your power and believe mentally that you can accomplish this.
And also announced recently, all three redshirt freshmen that were in the starting lineup this past season were named to the Open Mats all-freshman team. Tariq Wilson and Hayden Hiley were named the top freshmen at their weight classes nationally, while Daniel Bullard was named to the second team. Again, we'll be talking about their performance at the NCAAs coming up, but Pat, over the last few seasons, this program has really utilized and had the ability to redshirt some guys and help prepare them for their first college campaign. How important have these recent redshirt seasons been?
They've been very valuable. You talk about three guys right there that have done a lot for us this past year. You know, we had the opportunity to redshirt them their first year. They've made huge strides as far as individuals, and even the growth as leaders on our team. And that's, you know, when we recruited these guys a couple years ago, this is what we were looking for. We were looking for freshmen to come to this program, be ready to wrestle, step in. And two of them obviously were able to do that, go far into the tournament, one making the national finals and the other one finishing third, and Daniel winning a match. That's what we recruited these guys for. They were some of the best kids in the country coming out of high school. And they had just as high expectations as we did as a staff. And that's a dangerous combination. And again, it's the body of work that this team's put in and what they believe in and doing things right and working. You know, obviously everybody's working hard, but they're working smart too. So it's shown here at the right time, and happy that these guys are getting rewarded with individual success alongside with the team.
And now on to the NCAA championships. We're a couple weeks removed from one of the most exciting tournament runs in the history of the Wolfpack program. I joked that it was held in cold Cleveland, but luckily I found a walking route from the hotel to the arena all indoors, so I survived.
Yeah, you were waiting to the end to show me that one.
And this year's NCAA championships set a new attendance record, both for the finals with over 19,000 fans and the entire tournament with over 113,000 fans came to the Quicken Loans Arena. And for those not in Cleveland, ESPN registered over 8 million viewers throughout the weekend. We said before it left, it was always one of the best sporting events. But, Pat, can you describe what kind of environment it was for those that were unable to be there this year?
It's, to me, one of the greatest sporting events you can be at. There's so much emotion, and it's just nonstop action 3 days. And obviously, you can be a fan of wrestling and appreciate it, obviously, with the matches and the level of wrestling. But if you're not your typical average fan for wrestling and you go to an event like this, you get hooked. You know, I think we've been able to attract some new people as a sport coming out to the NCAA tournament, and it's one of those where it's a 3-day just thriller, nonstop action. Great way to spend time with, you know, friends and family out there. And like you said, we picked a cold place to do it at, so hopefully down the road we can continue to get it somewhere a little warmer, and possibly maybe one day we'll get it in North Carolina. But it was Cleveland was great. You know, I think for at least fans and people watching, I thought it was a great area and location. You know, I think attracted a ton of people that are support wrestling, follow wrestling. It was an easy drive for a lot of people. So it was, you know, in that aspect, it worked out very well.
And I'm actually looking forward to next year's cold venue, Pittsburgh. Despite some weight cuts, I think I'll be in charge of the team dinners, at least for the coaches. So I'll take you guys around, show you.
Yeah, you better start doing your homework now.
And there were a lot of fans up in Cleveland for sure, but there were also a lot of NC State wrestlers that earned bids. A school record 9 automatic bids this season, making it now 27 of the 30 starters over the last 3 years have advanced to the NCAAs. And so many impressive stats coming from this run. But I know you are proud of a couple. All 9 guys won at least one match. All 9 guys advanced to day 2 action. As a team, NC State went 25-15 overall, and of those 25 wins, 14 were for bonus points. And these tournaments, you're not only getting points for advancement, but each bonus point gets you some team extra points, and that paid off for your 4th place finish. Overall, how satisfied were you with the 4th place team finish and the run you guys had this season?
You go back and you look at the ACC tournament. I think that really said a lot. When you look at the night and day difference from the way we competed, I think it speaks volume for these guys with their mentality and what they were willing to do. The bonus points were huge. We talked about it. We addressed it with the team after the ACC tournament. I think we kind of walked in there a little bit overconfident as far as individuals went, and a little bit of reality hit, and we had to regroup for about 2 weeks. And looking back, we wouldn't want it any other way, because that tournament prepared us more for the NCAA tournament than we thought. Obviously, the way that we went out and competed, it made these guys want to prove themselves again, and we needed that at that time of the year. It was a little bit of a reality check, and sometimes you need that in sports and athletics, and let alone wrestling. And I was glad. Looking back, I was glad it happened at the ACC tournament and not at the NCAA tournament, the last stop. So, this is a reflection of everybody's commitment to this program. We set this goal, I know, coming in here 6 years ago. We talked about it. We've preached it in the recruiting process, that the goal is to win a national title as a team. And the only people that really think that's a reality are the people in here day to day that know how much work's going in. So that part of it, it made it that much more realistic to know, and we talked about it the other day in our meeting, that we need to raise the bar, and we got to grow from this. It's stepping stones you take in a program. The year that we finished 11th, we thought we were ready to bring home a team trophy. Reality hit us in the face a little bit. We weren't ready. This year, we again thought we were ready, and the guys believed it, and we learned from our mistakes, and we were ready when we showed up at the national tournament. We were ready this time, and they proved that they could get it done, and it was a great accomplishment for the first time, at least here at NC State, to bring home a trophy. And I think it sets the bar high and lets us know we got to continue to work to finish that ultimate goal, winning a national title.
And you kind of touched on that, but for those that are casual wrestling fans or new to the sport, what does winning a team trophy mean to a school like NC State, and how much of an accomplishment is it? This is only the second time an ACC school has accomplished that, and the first time in school history. I
think it makes it realistic for people to understand that you can be in certain places. Maybe places that are starting to create a little bit of history and a little bit of tradition, that you can go to those places and be somebody now that's an icon within this program. These guys came here because they wanted to be the first at something. I know a lot of these kids, when we were recruiting them, they were like, I want to create history. A lot of people, obviously can go places that's already happened. And I know a lot of guys here want to be the first. When you look at them, they want to be the first 2-time national champ. That was Nick. He set the bar high, and I know guys now want to be the first 3-time. Whatever it is, they want to be the first team to bring home this trophy. They did that. Now these guys, they're setting the bar high, and we have guys that are extremely motivated, that have high goals beyond college. And, I think that's why you see freshmen now doing great things here at the NCAA tournament. And what that has done, it motivates these other guys. If they're getting outworked and guys are putting up results faster than other freshmen, it motivates those guys. The bar's been set high, and and that's what I like now as being on this team, is they're super competitive, and you want to be the best guy here at NC State. At the end of the day, you got to go out and win a national title now. Finishing as an All-American that's been set, and now these guys are hungry and they want to finish on top and outdo each other, and that's what makes a good team, is to be ultra competitive like that, and in a positive, good way. They feed off each other, and that's what's making a good team.
And I said we could rattle off some impressive stats, so here are just a few. NC State's fourth-place team finishes the best all-time in school history and ties is the best in ACC history. NC State had a national champion for the third time in the last 5 seasons. The Wolfpack had a school record 2 NCAA finalists, the first time an ACC school has done that in a single season. Also, 3 semifinalists were a program best. NC State also had a school record 4 All-Americans. And over the last 4 seasons, there's a total of 10, which is the same total from the previous 23 seasons combined before this current stretch. I joked when we got back to Raleigh, but the budget for the graphics around the mat room is really going to have to increase with all of these great accomplishments from this past season.
Yeah, that's something we always look forward to. We always joke around about doing is who's going to be the next guy to get their face on the wall and leave their mark here. There's a saying in the room, who's going to be next to make their statement, and obviously a couple guys did that this past weekend. So we got to do that now. We have a national championship wall that I have no problem finding ways to redesign that, finding space. We get to hang a banner up in Reynolds, so that will stay up there, and history will be made for that. And we got to wrap that wall a little further now, so that's good.
And we're going to start by talking about Mock's national championship, the 8th in NC State history and the 3rd under yourself. We had him on the last podcast and got his thoughts on the whole run, but what was his mindset going into the tournament, and you were coaches for him, as at his end of the season was probably one of the toughest in NCAA history, facing all those top guys, and he had a number 4 seed and just a pretty good draw, but he was wrestling really well at the end of the season. So what was your thought process going into the tournament for him?
It was, the thought process was drawn out last summer for him, the way that he trains and the way that he's wired. We had to manage him, probably a little more hands-on than the rest of the guys, just his mentality and how intense he trains at. We had to hold him back at times because he will go extremely hard, and his work ethic sometimes got in the way of things because he doesn't realize it, but he needed rest and recovery more than he needed to be going full speed all the time. Just the way that his body could hold up as far as injuries and not overtraining. So we managed that pretty well. And the good news is he was listening for the most part. There were days that we had to shut the room, lock it, and put a bolt on there. Otherwise you'd find him in there. So that part was important in training, but more than anything, it was his mentality. And you could tell after taking that loss in the ACC final, actually going from the dual meet, from the Virginia Tech dual meet, how upset he was. Both guys wrestled extremely hard, and that was a very close match in the dual meet, and he made a mistake, a lock in his hands, and he was motivated more than ever. And that's the thing with Machiavello, is it motivated him. It didn't set him back. He used that in a positive way instead of getting down on himself. And then he comes back and have a heartbreaker loss in the ACC finals, and triple overtime, the last overtime to the ride out. And after that, he knew if he had a chance, an opportunity to wrestle, it didn't matter who the opponent was, but if he lost to somebody twice, the third time was going to be very hard to have that same thing happen. And you could tell during the whole national tournament how confident he was, and just you could see it on his face, his expressions, his body language before he went out there. He knew he was going to win. And it didn't matter what the score was. He knew he was going to find a way to come back and find victory, no matter who his opponent was.
And he started off with back-to-back majors. Then his quarterfinal bout against Rashid of Penn State was one of the most exciting. He scored a winning takedown with 12 seconds left. And then we went into the semifinals. He got a pin to advance to the finals, but at that same time, Virginia Tech's Jared Hott also scored a pin to advance to the finals. And Hott beat Mock twice during the season, but both were close bouts, and Mock even admitted he made one mistake in each that cost him. But what kind of mentality does it take for a wrestler to be prepared not only to wrestle in the NCAA finals, but to face off against a guy that beat you twice during the season?
That's a tall order. And the way those guys wrestled, you knew it was going to be another barn burner of a match. And Machiavello said before the match, we were talking again, and we went over a little bit of, match strategy. It was like, hey, if this match goes into that ride out again, let's make sure you know what's going on. No, and he looked at me and he's like, this match will not go to overtime. He was like, I will make sure there's a takedown that happens before regulation. And you got to give it to him, because he did. He went out there and found a way to score. And you could see the last minute of that match, he got very aggressive and really turned up the offense. And whether or not, he got to the legs or his opponent got to his legs, it created action that he was able to win that scramble. And that's how he got that victory. So, yeah, I mean, both guys were wrestling extremely well. And to wrestle, in the national finals for the third time, that's a tall order to do for anybody.
And their match was close once again, and for the first time in the 3 bouts this season, there was a takedown as Mock got the winner with 15 seconds left. As a head coach, you've been lucky enough to experience this a few times, but what is that feeling as the clock is winding down and you know that your guy just wrapped up a title?
There's a lot of emotion that goes into that, and at the end of the day, you recruit these guys here because you tell them you'll do everything in your power as a coach to make sure that they can accomplish their goals. And winning a national title is a very difficult thing to do as an individual, let alone as a team. So when you finally see a kid reach those goals, it's rewarding. It's rewarding on a lot of different levels, because you see how much sacrifice these guys make in their personal lives and how much work and sweat and tear, whatever it is, countless hours behind the scenes for that second of glory that they get. That's what that is. You don't get to really celebrate a lot during the season, because these matches and dual meets, you're moving on to the next week, and that's the final stop right there. And a lot of times, and especially for a kid like Machiavello, that sometimes could be life changing, winning that national title. Some of these guys have done it before. Some of these guys have had success growing up their whole lives in wrestling. Not that he hasn't, but we talked about it. Sometimes you put yourself in position as individuals to change your landscape of your personal career by some of these big wins and what you accomplish in college. And, the opportunities for him now are going to be endless.
And your other NCAA finalist was redshirt freshman Hayden Hidley at 157. Coming in as the only undefeated freshman nationally, he had a huge target on his back. He was very businesslike in his approach, and for a freshman, so level-headed about what was ahead of him. He had to beat Romani from Pitt for the third time this year. He defeated Berger from Nebraska, now a 2-time All-American who placed third for the second time this season, and used a huge 6-point move in the semifinals to become only the second NC State freshman in school history to reach the finals. He came up short to the 2-time defending champion Jason Oaf of Penn State, but can you take us through Hayden's tournament and just how this sets him up for the next 3 seasons here at NC State?
Yeah, I think he's one of the guys that, not that he's been overlooked or anything, but you look at a season that he put together, and to go out and, back up everything that he was in position for, that's tough to do. It's tough to go out and beat somebody for the third time that, you've had some close matches with, and then let alone you get a kid that was a returning All-American that you got to beat again. And it wasn't an easy road for him, and he made it look, I wouldn't say he made it look easy, but his composure and the way that he went out there and wrestled, he just, like you said, it was like a business trip for him. He just didn't get rattled in anything, and he had all the confidence in the world going into that. And then obviously wrestling Nolf, there's a reason the guy's a 2-time national champ, one of the best kids in the country, and a mistake here or there. But I know we came back to Raleigh on Monday, and he was in there working out already, and he wasn't happy. He's not satisfied, and you can see it on him. He's determined to find a way, and he will continue to work and do everything in his power to put himself in position to win that national title, and refuses to lose, and that's what makes him great. That's what makes our team in a better spot. He spoke today about it as well. These guys aren't happy and satisfied with where they're at as a team and as individuals, so work is getting done already, and these guys are motivated, and he's a great leader for this program because he does everything right inside the room and outside the room, and we're just fortunate enough to have him here for the next 3 to 8 years, maybe 10 years of training.
Some doctors go to school for 8 years.
That's all right. We'll take him and doctor, because he's got goals beyond just college.
So Hayden entered the season unranked, then went out and finished 26-1 on the season and placed second in his first trip at the NCAAs. What does the offseason hold for Hayden now that expectations will be different entering his sophomore year? whether we're talking about freestyle or maybe even some Greco.
Yeah, his long-term goals are to make a world and Olympic team, so he's going to start right away. Probably, most likely, will wrestle, whether it's U.S. Open or the University Nationals. He wants to get on one of these world teams, and he's good enough to do that. We just got to fine-tune some freestyle, and a training situation here is right on track for him to be right in the mix of things. So we're back to the normal routine of training, working on some individual stuff with these guys. And, we just got to fine tune one or two things with him. It's not like he's got to change anything drastically, but he knows he's, to beat the best guys in the country, he's got to continue to evolve and know that guys are game planning for him. And I think he sensed that towards the end of the year and elevated his game quite a bit and, found ways to win, got that takedown, and his defense is phenomenal and getting off bottom. So he's got a lot of things moving in the right direction. But now, knowing that guys are scouting him, and that's what makes him great, though, is he's going to be willing and able to continue to evolve and get better and better.
And one other redshirt freshman that stole the show, Tariq freaking Wilson, as Melissa Simmons continues to dub him even way back in January. This is a wrestler who never won a state title, but he was a top 100 recruit and took a redshirt year last year. He was looking forward to putting on a show in his home state of Ohio. And how exciting was Tariq to watch during this run?
I think he, obviously the guys that are winning it, people are talking about him, but he had to have been one of the top guys talked about at the NCAA tournament with just his run that he had at the national tournament and the way that he did it and as dominant as he was. And, I think it was 24 takedowns or
24 to 2.
24 to 2. That is an impressive number right there. And the riding time, I don't even know where he was at with riding time, but
I couldn't count that high.
You see signs of greatness from Tariq all year. In big matches, he would score points all over the place. The only problem was he was, giving him up big moves here and there. In a lot of matches, he would be up big or be in a tight match and give up a big move and have to come back. And he found a way to fix that in the last 2 weeks of the season. And that, that's a sign of a kid that's continuing to improve and continuing to listen. And that's it gives hope to all these guys. If there's a weakness that you have during the season, you still have time. Maybe it's bottom. Maybe you're struggling all year to get off bottom. Those last 2 weeks, you can find a way to get it done. And ultimately, that's what he did. I think he found a way to stop these big moves and getting off bottom. And he went after it. We talked about it before the tournament. You can't be afraid to win. And he certainly wasn't. He put it out there and left everything he had on that mat. And extremely proud of his effort and excited to see, the years to come for him, because I think he finally had that major breakthrough, and it's a different level now for him as an athlete.
And same as Hayden, what does the offseason look like for Tariq?
Same kind of thing. Tariq's still eligible for 20 and under, the UWW Nationals, so he'll probably, since he placed this year, probably hit the trials. We'll see if we're going to send him to the Vegas tournament here in April. Probably just send him to the trials, but he's good in freestyle, so we want to continue to work on that and put him in position to accomplish his goals as far as long-term making a world team.
NC State's fourth All-American is a repeat All-American. In fact, Kevin Jack is only the fifth NC State wrestler in school history to All-American 3 times. He also leads the program with the second most wins in school history. Kevin came to NC State after a great prep career in Connecticut, but not with a lot of fanfare. He leaves the direct opposite, one of the top wrestlers in school history. What has Kevin meant to your program?
Pretty amazing accomplishment right there. 3-time All-American is not an easy thing to do, let alone to do it as a true freshman when you're not one of the top recruits in the country. And you go and you look back when you're making these jumps as a program, it's guys like him that weren't the highest recruited guys coming out of high school, but came here, worked extremely hard and bought in. And, wrestling means everything to him. So he's elevated the game. He's instilled confidence to these young guys, and they've all been able to feed off each other. And that's one of the things, his technique and the way that he wrestles is a little more unique. So he's been a fun guy to have in the lineup to watch, but he's also elevated our mentality here as far as a program. And he's a major reason why we've been able to get a lot of kids coming here. And ultimately, you look back at all the points he scored over the years. He's one of the guys that's really helped us continue to grow and get this team trophy that we're able to do this year.
And it seems we can share some good news. Kevin will be graduating from NC State this spring and then enrolling in grad school and still be involved in your programs. Can you just talk about how valuable that will be and what do you see his role with this team moving forward?
It's extremely valuable to us. So yes, Kevin is graduating. We're still working on the admission process to getting him into grad school, but we'll find a way. He's find out here hopefully next week or two. And then we're going to put him to work right away. These guys transition from wrestling and spending countless hours training. If we can get him doing similar stuff, working behind the scenes for us, we're going to be in a good spot. But he'll be in the room day to day. Being a grad assistant means he can travel and coach, actually corner guys, because he's a grad assistant having another year of eligibility. So through compliance, he's eligible to do that. He'll be a great asset to the new guys that are coming in, working some technical stuff, and obviously being a good training partner for anybody that's in the low to middle weights coming in here. That's going to be a huge help. And I'm going to make sure that he has countless hours of work ahead of him, so he's never bored or, never complaining that he doesn't have anything going on. So we're gonna show him the ropes a little bit.
Will we finally see Kevin above 141 pounds?
I think Kevin's already 170 something pounds right now.
That wraps up our look back at the NCAA championships. We're going to have plenty of time to look ahead to next year, including talk about the end of the schedule, breaking down those that redshirted this year. And we still need to do a whole episode on your nationally ranked recruiting class. But now that the season is wrapped up and we've already started the offseason program, what does the spring look like for you coaches?
Business as usual. It's nonstop with, day-to-day. Developing our guys is going to always be the most important part of our program. The guys that are here already, we put our focus majority into that. The recruiting is, never ends. We're on the road a lot as far as somebody's out there traveling on our full-time staff, and now the freestyle season's going. That's another component that'll put us all over the map with going to Vegas, going to the World Cup, all these university nationals, W23 and under. There's a lot of different aspects to it. I'm sure guys will be out at the training center working there with OB and whoever else we're sending out there. So, it's just, it's same things moving day to day, just we're not in the season competing as much.
And Pat, it was great to catch up and just recap the season as a whole. Over the next few months, we'll have some different formatted podcasts, which I'm really excited to dive into a few different topics we don't get to talk about during the season, just hearing from some different guests. But the weather is starting to turn so nice in Raleigh. Pat, I hope you got a chance to be outside. Maybe you can help out at Spino's Lawn Care. He's always hiring over there.
Yeah, I had him actually. He did a phenomenal job. He came over the other day and cleaned up my yard pretty good, mulched it, and he put a sign out. Very proud and impressed with the developments of him as a business owner. As he says, he's crushing it.
This guy is getting more free publicity on this podcast.
This is the last one unless we see a sponsorship.
We are looking for sponsors over the summer, but I want to thank everybody for listening today. This is your Pack Mentality Pop-Ins podcast covering all things NC State wrestling. Until next time, Wolfpack wrestling fans, go Pack!
Mentality Pop-Ins podcast is produced by the Mad Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, go to madtalkonline.com.